Good evening, everyone. We're going to start our March 28th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. And we are beginning to start off today. We want to make a motion, or rather, make a motion to accept the minutes from January 31st, 2021. Make a motion, everyone.
I make a motion to pass minutes for January 31st.
Mr. Reed makes a motion to pass in a second. Mr. Rose makes it to second it. So it passes. At this time, we're going to shift gears because this is a dual board. We're going to deal with the Board of Adjustments, public hearing, as well as if anybody has anything to say with the Anthony Mullis about the rear yard setback, accessory structure. If you have something to say, we need to swear in, and we'll hear what you have to say. And now we are open for comments.
Very good. So, Chairman, what I'll do is go ahead and lead the discussion as to the variance request, and at that time, we'll have a variance. We'll have the public hearing at that time. If there's anybody who wants to speak, we can swear them in at that time.
Excellent.
So tonight, the first item of business, as Chairman Slater said, was our variance request. Applicant's name is Mr. Anthony Mullis. and shall conform to all applicable setbacks. Number 2, no accessory structure not otherwise regulated by this ordinance shall be located within the required or established front, setback, or front or side yard of a single-family, two-family residentially developed property. Let's see, all accessory structures or buildings associated with single-family and two-family homes shall be located in the rear yard. No accessory structure on a corner lot shall extend beyond the side building line of the principal structure. And number 4, no accessory structure shall be located less than 5 feet from the side or rear lot line or occupy more than 30% of the required rear yard. So our findings of facts for this case is that, number 1, unnecessary hardship would result from the strict application of this ordinance. The finding, limited space exists in the rear yard of the property for an accessory structure due to the location of a below-ground swimming pool. Number 2, the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Our finding is that the hardship results from conditions that are peculiar to the property and are not common to the rest of the neighborhood. Number 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. Finding, the hardship does not result from actions taken by the property owner. Number 4, the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that public safety, security, and substantial justice is achieved. And our finding was that the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the ordinance such that public safety, security, and substantial justice is achieved. The last page, as you see, or next to the last page, based on the above findings, the City of Goldsboro's Board of Adjustments concludes the following. If it's in the board's purview, you would need to act on each individual variance finding, 1, 2, 3, and 4, in order for the variance to be granted. Let's see, a motion done. Alrighty. So from the board, do you have any questions or comments regarding this case?
Any discussion?
How far is the pool back from the back line?
Okay. Oh, from the back line, I can't give you specifics, but I can show you that. The pool is here. So there's plenty of space.
Oh, there is.
Question is how to get there with the existing space that you have, if you were ever considering it as part of the yard. At the same time, meet the setback requirements. So anyway, the accessory structure is here. I'm going to go over the numbers here. You're looking at the side yard, 8 feet
Between
in
the
front of this one, the original. 28 feet wide, 32 feet in depth. There's the pool itself, 6 feet in between structures. And of course, here's some additional information. But if you have any other questions, let me know.
Is that an in-ground pool?
Yes, sir.
It is.
If not, Chairman, I'll turn it over to you for the public hearing.
Okay. All right. So anybody else have anything else you want to add to the staff? Okay. All right. At this time, we're going to open up the floor to anybody who want to speak for or against the said fact that we have a 122 in reference to the 2-car garage. Anybody else have anything to say? Remember, if you're going to have something to say, you have to swear in. Okay, don't look like anybody has anything. So we need to come back to our findings and let's prepare to take a vote on the 4 conclusions that are found.
Yes, sir. Chairman, if you could just close the public hearing.
At this time, we're going to close the public hearing and continue on for our vote. All right, unnecessary hardship. How do we vote? Approve or deny? If you approve, just say aye. Or raise your hand. I approve. Anybody deny? We approve. On number 2, the hardship and conditions. Where do we stand? Approve?
Approve.
Any deny? Number 3, hardship that didn't result. We know that. We fill in our fact finding. Do we approve?
Approve.
Deny, okay. Number 4, what is our finding on the requested variance? We approve or
Approve.
deny? Approve? Approve. So, Director, we have found from 1, 2, 3, and 4 along with the fact finding, we approve to pass this, which is A-122.
Very good. Thank you, Chairman. The variance is considered granted at this time. Thank you. We'll move on to the following business action.
All right. This time we're going to move forward since the Board of Adjustments hearings is closed. We're going to go to the items. We're going to deal with Z-122. And we'll turn this back into our director's hands.
Thank you, Chairman. So now we'll revert back to wearing the hat of the Planning Commission. And our first request is Z-122, Angela Moriso. This property is located on the east side of North William Street between Wilson Street and East US 70 Highway Service Road and within the corporate city limits. The applicant is requesting a change of zone from residential R6 to general business for 2 private lots which are of continuous frontage and under single ownership within the residential zoning district. If approved, the owner will be required to recombine the lots into one for commercial development purposes, meeting the requirements of the general business zoning district. As you see there, the frontage and the area surrounding zoning of the property. We'll turn some of those layers here. So you have property zoned general business directly to the west, northwest of the property, and southwest of the property. And just a ways to the east, you'll see larger property zone highway business, and in the direct area where the property is at, it is residential at this time. I believe that I have said in the agenda memo that one of the 2 lots was currently vacant, but I want to say that both of these properties are now currently vacant. I believe that house was knocked down and demolished. The land use plan recommends high-density residential development for the property. Although the comprehensive land use plan recommends high-density residential development, the requested change of zone would be consistent or compatible with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. City water and sewer available to serve the property. Property is not located in a special flood hazard area, and grading and drainage plans may be required. At this time, there was not anybody to show up and speak for or against this request. This is just a conventional rezoning request from R6 to general business. Do you have any questions regarding this request? You see there's one more slide. Okay, there's the property as we speak, and it's vacant. And of course you see on the left hand side, NCDOT has been very heavily involved in widening that section along William Street, and a lot of those properties to your left there have been demolished because of DOT acquiring properties for the widening of it. And so, anyway, with that being said, if there's no other questions.
All right. So, is there no further? Go ahead. You make a motion? Go ahead.
Okay.
Does it meet all the requirements for whatever?
Yes, sir. It does.
No stipulations.
That is correct. Again, when it comes to, when the land use plan shows that the property, I don't know that we have a picture of it, but the land use does recommend high-density residential for that area, but we have seen a slow progression of these properties being rezoned for commercial purposes. And again, being right there on the service road and next to other properties that were once consisting of commercial buildings, we certainly can't deny it, but with regard to actually coming out and supporting it, we can't support it only because of the comprehensive land use plan, but we do think it would be, although inconsistent with our comprehensive land use plan, we do think it's compatible based off of the surrounding zoning in the area.
You said one of the spots occupied?
Not at this time, no, sir. Everything out there at this time is vacant.
Is there any plans in that, near that area of building, and anybody put in anything for permits?
I'm not aware of any at this time. You know, of course, they have to come through our office for any commercial or residential development. Now, directly across there, I believe it's Wilson Street, there to the north of the property, there was a variance request, if you recall, not long ago,
Right.
from a Maria Cruz,
Right.
who was actually making some improvements to some single-family dwellings there. But no, sir, I have a feeling that a lot of these properties are probably going to be developed for commercial use in the future. One last note on the comprehensive land use plan. Our comprehensive land use plan, which basically serves as a guide for development in the future, it is close to its almost retirement age.
Right.
It's almost 10 years old, and once a comprehensive land use plan reaches 10 years, it's time for the city to start revisiting and basically determining steps for a new plan to be updated and incorporated. So that's another reason why, again, from what we're seeing, the trends in development at this point in time, we believe that even though it's inconsistent with our plan as it is, we still think it will be a compatible use for going forward.
Good.
I move that we approve the Z122.
Second it.
All right, as we have it, Mr. Waters makes a motion to approve, and Mr. Rose seconds it. Any denies? No. And we call it passed.
Very well.
All right. Let's move on.
Moving on, yes, sir.
As we move on to Z222.
Yes, sir. All righty.
Eastern Hill.
This property is owned by Eastern Hill, Inc., located on the south side of East Elm Street and the north side of Hugh Street between Crawford and Beale Streets.
This is one we looked at the last meeting, didn't we?
So the applicant is requesting a change of zone from residential to general business for 3 private lots which are of continuous frontage and under single ownership within the residential zoning district. If approved, the owner will be required to recombine the lots into one for commercial development purposes, meeting the requirements of the general business zoning district. In addition, a variance will be required for one of the 3 lots consisting of an existing non-conforming commercial building, which does not meet the required front setback of 20 feet along East Elm, Crawford, and Hugh Street. There's our comprehensive land use plan. Again, it shows that the area right now, high-density residential is what our comprehensive land calls for. You have commercial property to the west, commercially zoned, and commercial property there, and actually across the street. As you see there, the zone properties are general business across the street, general business to the west, and to the office and institutional to the south. 2 of the 3 lots fronting East Elm Street are vacant. The 3rd lot at the corner of East Elm and Crawford consists of an existing non-conforming 1-story brick veneer and concrete block commercial building of approximately 1,782 square feet. again, the city's land use plan recommends high-density residential development for the property. Although the CLUP recommends high-density residential development, the requested change of zone would be compatible with existing commercial zoning and uses in proximity to the site. So again, I just bring that up. It is inconsistent with our comprehensive land use plan now, but again, because of existing zoning in place and other properties in the surrounding area, we believe it would be a compatible use. Interesting thing about this property, it's good to see it be repurposed and rehabilitated. It sat there for quite a long time. We actually had it in the order to repair process, and next thing I know, building inspections informed us that the permits were being sought for improving the structure. And of course, the owner is actually taking, everything's at risk, of course, because he doesn't really know what's going to happen. But in this case, he is making some good strides in improving the property. As you see there, you have the existing commercial building that's been improved. The two lots to the left of the commercial building are unimproved vacant parcels. If this property was rezoned tonight, the owner would be required to submit a site plan showing compliance with the city's UDOs, making sure that there's paved parking, striped, grading and drainage plans would be submitted, landscape buffers would be incorporated. So there would be some additional expense involved with it. However, Eastern Hill Inc. is prepared to move forward. They wouldn't have applied for the rezoning if they didn't. So again, they're aware of what they need to do moving forward. But as you see, the building itself, it does not meet our setbacks, but this building was built prior to our UDO being implemented. So that'll have to come after if this property is approved.
Is there any particular plan for that, for what they're gonna do there?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and tell you that once I get these bifocals back on.
That may interrupt you there.
No. I kind of got off on a tangent. Thank you, sir.
it's-
You're fine. However, staff recommends a more so what we've got right now is the property, the applicant has asked for a general business zone, but residentially, staff is recommending a more restrictive zone such as neighborhood business zoning to serve as a more appropriate transitional buffer between commercial and residential development. And let me tell you why we decided that, because all he intends to do is rehabilitate the existing commercial structure for office use, business, and professional services. So that's what he prefers to go in there. So with that being said, the neighborhood business zoning would be the appropriate zone for what he's trying to do. And that basically serves as a transitional zone between a more heavier commercialized zone versus a zone that's appropriate for this type of commercial activity, which is directly surrounded by residential uses.
Well, that's the reason I basically asked.
Yes, sir. So
For the neighbors.
that's right. It's a low intensity commercial use, so we feel like that's the, you as a planning commission and the council have the right to rezone it to a more restrictive zone if you feel it necessary and appropriate. We feel like this is the more appropriate zone because of its proximity to residential neighborhoods.
Okay.
So
Okay.
outside of that, city water and sewer available. The subject property is not located in a special flood hazard area, and grading and drainage plans may be required. Turn it back over to you, Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
All right. As we've viewed what we've heard already, we'll take a time to vote. Somebody want to make a motion? Okay.
Second.
All right, Mr. Rose has made a motion first, and Mr. Reed has seconded. So it passes.
Yes, sir. All we need to
Any
take
other
is...
nays?
Yes. Are
Any
there
nays? Discuss- No nays?
No nays?
So-
We approve as such. All
All
right.
right.
All right, Chairman, we'll move on to our larger rezonings here, Z322. This piece of property is located on the north side of East US 70 Highway between Corbett Street and North Oak Forest Road, and located in the corporate city limits. The applicant's requesting a change of zone for the property from residential single-family conditional zoning to residential conditional zoning 9, conditional zoning, limiting the property to a townhome development complex consisting of 107 units. According to the city's UDO, the proposed development shall meet the multifamily and townhome development design standards of the R9 zoning district. As you see there. All right, let's see here. Surrounding zoning, office and institutional, residential, and neighborhood business. This here is our comprehensive land use plan. That's our zoning plan. Zoning map, and this is our comprehensive land use plan. So on November 4, 2013, the Goldsboro City Council concurred with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and adopted an ordinance changing the zoning for the subject property from residential 12 single family to residential 9 single family conditional zoning, and approved a conceptual plan for a total of 42 single family lots. The site was never developed. Currently, the property consists of agricultural farmland. The city's land use plan recommends commercial and industrial development for the area, but primarily commercial. So discussion, if you'll just follow along with me, I'll try to hit the highlights. We said most of this in our public hearing, but I'll be glad to read through it all if necessary. Access to the site will be directly from Corbett Street, terminus off of McLean Street. The applicant intends to extend Corbett Street and construct 2 new roads built to city standards for formal dedication and acceptance into the city's street network. Parking for the site requires 2 spaces per unit for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments and 3 spaces for units over 3 bedrooms. Staff is working with the developer to ensure compliance with the city's parking ordinance. Because it's a townhome development, there is a requirement of a common area equal to 20% of the entire development to be preserved, maintained, and improved by the development owner for active recreational use by residents of the development. The site plan shows an open space equal to 44% of the developed area. In addition, the required open space shall be held in common ownership for the perpetual benefits of the residents of the development by a legally established corporation, a homeowners association, or other legal entity, or be dedicated to the city of Goldsboro as a public park. External city sidewalks are required and are shown for the proposed development utilizing handicap accessible slopes and ramps. Additional sidewalks will be required along interconnecting streets for future development purposes. A lighting plan has not been submitted since the subject property is located adjacent to existing residentially zoned and developed properties. Developer will be required to submit a lighting plan in compliance with the city's commercial lighting ordinance. Interconnectivity has been shown for the site off of Corbett and Seymour Village Drive. The subject property is located within the city limits of Goldsboro. As such, city water and sewer will be able to serve the property. Property is not located within a flood hazard area. City engineering will require approval of stormwater calculation and drainage plans prior to issuance of any permits. Street trees have been provided along the proposed townhome street network. All utilities shall be underground. Commercial dumpsters will be utilized for garbage collection and shall be located in a corral and properly screened according to city standards. We do, I believe, let's see, we don't have I think we had some elevations that were submitted recently. We just don't have them in this presentation. So the city's comprehensive land use plan recommends commercial development for the property. Just keep in mind, multifamily developments are a permitted use in commercially zoned districts such as general business, office and institutional, neighborhood business, shopping center, and highway business. However, they must meet the development requirements of the closest, most restrictive residential zoning district. So, as required, staff finds that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan. Staff finds that the proposed zoning amendment is reasonable and in the public interest because the proposed zoning would allow for infill and multifamily development, which is compatible with existing properties in the surrounding area. Since city water and sewer are available to serve the property, higher residential density should be considered for the site. At the public hearing held March 21st, 2022, one person did speak against the proposal and requested that the city council not change the existing residential zone from single-family residential use. So, if you'll allow me, I'll just show you real quick, off of McLean Street here. Is Corbett. Corbett extends to a dead-end road here. This is where the property developer would take over in the construction of units. In Corbett Street, there's a piece of property here also that is vacant at this time. They're showing interconnectivity of streets here, should this property be developed in the future, and also here. Of course, they're showing sidewalks around the development. We are asking that the sidewalks continue all the way for interconnectivity purposes so that we would continue that to another property for development. Landscape buffers would be incorporated. Again, the applicant has stated that they would like to dedicate the streets and all utilities over to the city of Goldsboro, formal dedication. So the streets and all utilities have to be built to our standards, inspected as such, and meet our approval if that were to be done. But at this time, I'm not, if you have any other questions from the public hearing or for tonight, let me know. Be glad to answer for them.
How many units were we talking about?
107.
I remember the other night there was a problem with, they was a concern about a lot of traffic coming down Corbett.
Right.
All right, and understand that the developer is adding 2 more streets. Would that help?
Well, the only thing I'm aware of this time is these are the two. There's going to be an extension of Corbett. There'll be one street here, Mayberry, and then Seymour Village will be the other street. Again, they'll be extended and stubbed out to this property line right here, so that if and when this property ever develops, those streets will be continued.
Okay.
But at this point in time, ideally, yes, we would like more, and we believe there will be in the future. But right now, that is correct. That would be a concern once these units were all built out. That would be the only entrance and access to the property. Exit and access to the property.
Well, I live over on Hillcrest, or right there by Hillcrest where all the apartments are. I live in the neighborhood next to it. We've never had a problem. Well, I mean, there's a lot of apartments in there, in that area. We've never had any problems. Everybody's been good neighbors to it. I mean, I don't know. We've never had traffic problems and stuff, but that's been there a long time.
But the developers are prepared to, if this passes and all, they're prepared to have other exits on that, or is that what the plan
Did
is?
they own
If the
back
developer,
acreage?
That's all right now that they have coming off of McLean Street, because of surrounding properties are, again, are not part of the property acquisition.
okay.
And so we just have to hope in the future that if this property were developed, that there would be more with interconnectivity to the other property.
Over on Central Heights.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
That would take them back out to Central Heights or Oak Forest. That's correct.
All right.
Any other question?
Nope. Not for me.
Discussion? All right, shall we?
Sharon, did you want me to say anything with regards to the audience here
What was the
tonight?
opposition, did you say the other night? for the-
I believe the
at the public
opposition,
hearing?
The,
Corbett Street was a lot
About
of,
Corbett Street,
they were
is that
concerned
it?
about the traffic on that street and.
That's correct. And again, the gentleman who was there, he's here tonight. Just gonna, if this is appropriate, Chairman, I'm just gonna tell you that unfortunately, for those that are here tonight, this meeting serves as deliberation for the planning commission only. If they had specific questions of the developer that they needed to ask for the site plan, they could do that. But outside of that, there's really no other course for discussion. But I will let you know that as we move on to our next and final meeting, council meeting, which is the first Monday night in April, you will have an opportunity to come to that meeting, and each one of you, if you wanted to speak. You'll be limited to a certain time limit, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, or you can have one person speak for all. But again, unfortunately, that's all we can do tonight. But you'll have that opportunity.
I have a petition with 29 names on it.
Yes, sir.
You opposing this? Can I leave that with you?
I don't see why that wouldn't be appropriate. Yes, sir. I'll be glad to pass those out. Chairman, with your permission, we'll go ahead and do that.
Let's go forward.
And we'll also submit that same report to the
City
council
council.
at their hearing as well. Okay? All right.
So as of right now, there's only one way in and one way out.
That is correct. The fire marshal, all requests that come through our office, we have a technical review committee that are required to review these for comments back to the applicant. At this particular time, that is something that has been discussed, but so far as it being a major problem where the fire marshal said, hey, look, this can't happen, that we do not have any of those
Right.
concerns at this time.
We can't actually ask the audience anything, we can't ask them. We're not
No, sir.
allowed.
No, sir.
No.
This street's only 390 feet long, with potential 200 some people in and out there every day. Won't work.
So, my name is Jennifer Scott, I represent the developer, I'm an attorney practicing here for questions. I understand this isn't for public comment, but I think the questions are more appropriately addressed to our technical advisors if there is one, and then we can hear from the opposition at the next meeting, and we'll of course ask for a copy of that petition and certainly address those folks as well.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Again, these are good questions, and they have been noted. Again, any concerns you have, please bring them to the board meeting at the next regularly scheduled meeting, regardless of what the planning commission's recommendation is.
All right. We've heard a lot here. It's a lot of meat to chew on this one. But from our findings, we found that the developers have met and each earmark, right, that we have required from them.
I'm sorry?
Said the developers have met each of the zoning, all the things that we needed from them.
Well, at this point in time, that's what they need in order to move forward.
To move forward.
In order to move forward, the site plan at this point in time is in compliance. There are some items that will be subject to, if the rezoning is approved, just like we've said before, there's some things that typically developers will not submit an entire development package without knowing that the zoning's in place, because there's a lot of expense, a lot of time in coordination with developers, owners, negotiations. So if this is approved by city council, then if it's the wishes of the developer to move the project forward, they will progress to a full set of site development plans that will be submitted back to the city for review. And of course, our technical review committee will meet to determine that it meets compliance with all of our development regulations, at which time, when that's done, then they'll have the green light for obtaining building permits for development.
May I beat it to death one more time?
Absolutely.
The entrance and exit and entrance, that street, if they wanted to make it larger, wider, could they? How could they, or with what they've proposed so far?
That will be
Dumb
something
question.
for our city engineer. They meet
Yeah.
their minimum required street widths at this time.
Entrance and exit's what I was
Yes, sir.
concerned about.
But and again, that'll be something again that if we can always refer that back to our code and our technical review committee and our fire marshal to make sure that if there is anything that would be a red flag for development, they're not going to let it roll forward unless they know it's within our regulations.
All right. Got something?
I mean, I don't really know where this would go in at, but having lived up north for 38 years, I'm just not a big fan of one way in, one way out.
Understood?
And it would be really nice to have another entrance exit added before, you know, final approval is given, an option for it. I think it's gonna cause more confusion.
All right. You ready to bring it to a vote?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion.
Motion to
Approve.
approve. Can we get a second? Second to approve.
If everything is met, it's what require me to, second.
The motion made, the first made by Mr. Rose and second by Mr. Reed. So we'll move on to the next step on that part.
Again, just for clarification,
Eddie.
that we just might want to say all those in favor, or if anyone makes a recommendation of denial, please raise your hand. One,
Denial.
two. Okay,
Okay, two,
so 3 and 2, is that correct?
3 and 2.
3 and 2? Correct, none of those, please, okay. Alrighty, so, at this point in time, we'll move on to the final zoning request. Yes, sir?
When is the, council meeting? Next Monday? All right, 7 o'clock? I'm not a lawyer, but these people here haven't even bought this land. All this is contingent upon getting the zoning changed. They haven't purchased the land. That came from the current landowner.
It's
Thank y'all.
irrelevant, we're under contract, so.
Yeah, contingent upon y'all changing, right? And I'm not a lawyer.
Alright. Chairman, if you'll give us just a second.
Yes.
Just the streets, you know, the streets on that property. The streets ain't property. Finally, I'm just thinking if I live there. See, I'm trying to picture in my mind that we had a little more. I know there's some farm, isn't that farmland right
You
there?
know, I'm a color type chick. I like exits.
I mean, that's true too.
Mr. Slater,
Yes.
were you in, you were for it, correct? You were for it? or
Yes.
You were not, okay.
I'm sorry.
Chris would never vote, that's why I was.
Yeah, okay.
Ugh, I don't know.
Alrighty. Chairman, we'll move on to the last one.
Yes.
Alrighty. This is for KRP Investments LLC. This property is located on the east side of Wayne Memorial Drive between 4th Street and Gracie Place. If anybody hasn't told you how important your job is on this council or this commission, let me just tell you, this is a very serious and very important commission for the city of Goldsboro.
I don't want to record it, I just look at it on both sides. I try to be open. And maybe if we had a full picture of that thing in development, would probably be a little bit of different. But if I would have talked to him a little earlier, maybe I would have got some of this out of
Sure.
my system.
Sure.
But if you got questions, I don't think you should just say, yeah, you need to find out. That's what we're here for.
That's correct. And just to let you know some things, bless you. So
The city's not gonna let it get out of hand anyway, no matter what.
exactly, and that's what I wanted to tell you. When it comes to the new statutes that have changed, the city used to have that option. They always have the option when it comes to rezoning. If they don't want to zone it, they really don't even have to give a reason. They just can say, no, we don't feel like this is best for the community, and that's it. That's all. But in other proceedings you have with regards to special use permits, things like that, you have very strict stipulation and guidelines you have to follow. And if they meet it, you cannot deny the permit if they meet all the requirements. Now, with zoning, once it does pass and the property is zoned appropriately for development, then it comes under strict scrutiny from our technical review committee. We're going to sit in there, we're going to beat it to death to make sure that everything is covered. So the fire marshal is going to make sure his office is covered. City engineering is going to make sure their office are covered. Planning is going to make sure that we've covered all the things that we have to do. And once that's done, no longer do you have to go before council to get site plans approved, because again, once they implemented the new Chapter 162, it basically says, hey, look, if the developers are playing by the rules, cities and municipalities, towns and counties, they have to also play by the rules. They can't cherry pick what they want to come into the city.
That's what I was looking at, if all the check marks were checked, and if the engineers and stuff looked at it.
That's correct.
just
That's
okay.
right. Now, the city engineer, they'll still have to do that. They'll have to make sure that the proper water volume and pressure's in place. The fire marshal, just as a tidbit of information, you can't have any dead-end street that's in excess of 800 linear feet. So in order to do that, you either have to have a cul-de-sac at the end of the street for turnaround of a fire apparatus, or you have to connect to another street. As far as we're able to determine, they've met that, but with regards to the one-way in and one-way out, unless the fire marshal finds it somewhere in his fire code or in city ordinances that say you can't, he can only enforce what his guidelines will allow him to enforce. So, but it's a good point,
Yeah.
Ms. Figueroa, it really is.
I can feel for those people. I mean, they've been pretty much living in the country and the city. And they're just not used to having no traffic on their road, but you know, they're in the city limits now. They've got to learn to give, you know, like the rest of us. You know, you know, if you don't live in the country, you need to go out in the country to live.
Well,
I was trying to picture everything around it, the whole thing, and I don't think I quite maybe
Right.
I did understand, but not maybe fully.
yes, sir.
There's not many people living in the city that got a cornfield across the street.
Yeah,
Well, I thought they had purchased, I thought it was already purchased and ready to, break ground.
They got a
They
contract.
got a contract,
That's
if
all.
this were to pass through the city council, and they pass it, of course, we're not allowed to say this is city council.
Right.
And then, if they do pass it, they're under contract, it's going through.
yeah.
And interestingly enough, the property there to the east of the property, that will be the rezoning case that you'll hear at the next meeting that we'll have in April.
Which piece of property is
I-
that?
Directly east of it.
I know exactly where that
This
property
one
is.
here?
No, sir.
Left
Right to
side,
the right of the
behind you.
property.
This one?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
So the city is witnessing, we are seeing quite a bit of
We've
activity.
got a serious housing problem here in Goldsboro right now, we need this stuff.
Yeah, that was
There's
my
nowhere for
concern.
anybody, you know, I'm in first booth, I see people come in my store all the time, I can't find anywhere to live, I can't find anywhere to live. Everything's filled up, I got to wait 4 months for this person to move out of this apartment complex where I can move in. And there's a real problem with housing right now.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right.
All right.
All right, moving forward to KRP Investments. This applicant is requesting a change of zone for a portion of the subject property from office and institutional to residential conditional zoning, limiting the use of the property to a 3-story multifamily development complex consisting of 63 units for individuals 55 years of age and older. The remaining acreage will be reserved for future development. So if you'll look with me, I don't know that I included their site plan. That's something we can show you offline, but I'll just show you real quickly that to the north there, you're gonna see Wayne Memorial Drive,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're gonna see Howell Funeral Home, Seymour Funeral Home there to the north. So 4th Street comes down, and it provides access to the property right here. The street dead ends. So with the site plan they've submitted, they're showing a street approximately 850.
Feet to get to that piece
Yes,
of
sir.
property, and they're gonna pay for that?
Yes, sir. But here's the deal. Mr. Rose, with regards to this property, if it's properly zoned, there's gonna be subdivisions, proposed subdivisions where this street will actually dissect this piece of property
Right.
from this piece of property. So they have plans for subdivision.
Uh-huh.
It very well could be for office and institutional development. It could be for additional multifamily, townhomes or something like that. But for right now, that's the site, and again, if you'd like to see that, I apologize for not putting it in here. I should have provided that site plan. But regardless, it's a 3-story. I can give you a building elevation of it, which is right there. So that's what it's
Kinda like
rendered. Yes, sir. So, according to the UDO, the proposed development shall meet the multifamily design standards of the R6 zoning district. The property currently consists of agricultural farmland and woodlands. The city's land use plan recommends office and institutional development, but just like the previous zoning case, multifamily developments are a permitted use in office and institutional zoning districts and must meet the development requirements of the closest, most restrictive zoning district. So according to the city's land use plan, higher residential densities are recommended and should be encouraged since city water and sewer are available to serve the property. So, again, access to the site will be directly from East 4th Street. Parking for the site will require 2 spaces per unit for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. Open space, 20% of the development shall can be preserved, maintained, and improved by the development owner for active recreational use by residents of the development. Sidewalks, external sidewalks are required and are not shown currently on the proposed development, but staff was going to ensure that that requirement is met when those plans are fully submitted to us. Internal sidewalks are shown on our site plan and are through slope ramps and handicap accessible walkways. Same thing with a lighting plan. A lighting plan has not been submitted, however, one will be required. Engineering, the subject property is located in the city limits of Goldsboro. City water and sewer available to serve the property. It is not located in a special flood hazard area. City engineering will require a set of full stormwater calculations and drainage plans prior to the issuance of any building permits. So landscaping is a requirement of the project as well. Vehicular surface areas, landscape islands will be there. Street trees will be provided along the street to the property. Refuse collection will be provided, appropriately screened and located in a corral built to city standards. As you saw previously, we had building elevations here consisting of architectural shingles as roofing material. Wall siding will consist of fiber cement, cedar shakes, decorative brackets, and brick veneer. So the staff's findings. The city's land use plan recommends office and institutional development. Multifamily developments are permitted use in commercially zoned districts such as general business, office and institutional, neighborhood business, shopping center, and highway business zoning districts. Staff finds that the proposed zoning amendment is consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive land use plan and finds that the proposed zoning amendment reasonable and in the public interest because the proposed zoning would allow for infill and multifamily development, which is compatible with existing properties in the surrounding area. Since city water and sewer are available to serve the property, higher residential density should be considered for the site. So with this piece here, again, the reason they're going to a higher density is because of the water and sewer. They wanted to achieve as much units as possible, and the only way to do that is to go from an R9 to an R6. So, anyway, any questions regarding this particular site?
Now, that's a 55 and up community,
Mhm.
so no kids can move in there or anything?
That's a good question. I don't know how these documents, these lease arrangements are made.
I don't know how they hold them to it.
I know it.
Yeah, well, I got a real estate license years and years ago.
Yeah.
And the North Carolina statute back then, we're talking about over 20 years ago, it may have changed.
Right.
But as what they were saying in it back then was no children. You had to be 55 and plus to live in there.
Right.
And if you had like your grandkids there, they can't stay there like for a week or two. That's what the law was.
Right. And I remember reading on the site plan that there are only going to be 1 and 2 bedroom units. There won't be any more than that.
Yeah.
So you have to believe if there is a caretaker there, I don't know, maybe there's something in there that would be there for it.
Well,
I
the
don't know.
caretaker, that's one thing. But
Right.
When you're doing a 55 community, you're trying to keep everybody in the community happy.
That's
And
right.
then if you start bringing in children in that thing,
That's
you're
right.
gonna have a lot of
You're
people
right.
raising Cain.
Yes, sir.
Raising Cain with you
I
in the
totally
city.
agree. So there won't be any children there, and I'm sure they'll have that spelled out in their
Right.
lease agreement. Yeah.
I'm just trying to get rid of headaches
Yes.
before they happen.
Yes. So let me just pull back up the site again. Well, going the other way here. So there it is, and like I said, I think you've got. I forgot the assisted living facility directly to the east there, the R9.
I know which one you're talking about.
Wooded
Yeah.
Care. Is that
What's the name
I
of it?
think Woodard Care is directly
Wood-
south.
Is it Woodard?
I think
Yes,
that's,
sir.
isn't it Bryson?
Briarcliff.
Briar. The other
Briar.
side, Brian.
Bronson. I
Yes.
think that's
Yeah,
that's
that's
that. I
it.
believe
Yes.
that's
I
it.
think it's the same people.
Plus, they're off the road quite a ways.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
they in the back off of Tampa.
Yeah.
And once again, the same question could be applied here. You know, one way in, one way
A
out.
lot of our places now are like that though.
You're right. A lot of multifamily developments that, as a building inspector, I recall that, again, you've got to meet that 800-foot requirement, or you have to have a cul-de-sac in there so that a fire engine or pumper can turn around. But outside of that, anything could happen. Like you said, if he just, I remember when Eastern Aluminum caught on fire.
Mm-hmm.
You remember how that
Yeah.
one fire blocked everybody out of
Sure
the
did.
Park East Industrial Park from getting out
That's right.
because they had such a mess right there. It was just so now the Park East is actually looking at extending one of their roads back to McLean Street so that won't happen again.
Right.
So again, it's these things that you try to plan for the best, plan for the worst, and hope for the best. But again, as long as it meets the city standards, it is something to think about in the future. But there's some developments that we even thought about taking the road all the way back to this cul-de-sac you see to the north, but it's just not feasible or practical to make that happen. And that's why if the developers could, I'm sure they would. But as long as they meet our current requirements, engineering, fire, planning, then all we can do is support it.
But it also said that about the 126 parking spaces, is that right, needed?
That is correct.
And that working with staff
That's
on
right.
that.
They didn't have the correct number, and then
Yeah.
once we called their hand on it,
Actually knew that.
they actually doubled up like they were supposed to do. And now we have a new site plan showing that now.
Okay.
But again, it
That's one thing that did stick out. Okay.
seems like it to be a nice fit.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
a pretty good area.
Prepared to make a motion?
Yeah.
Make a motion to pass.
Mr. Reed makes a motion,
I second it.
and Ms. Figueroa made a second.
Approved.
Approved.
Move to approve.
Approved. Okay, we're all approved. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Thank you so much. We will just leave you with what we discussed before. That track off of Corbett Street, the one that we spoke of, single axle,
Right.
We have a developer who's asking for a change of zone directly east. If these two developments were to proceed forward, you'd have that interconnectivity. You wouldn't have that one way in, one way out.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to sell the project. I'm just saying that that's something to think about going
Right.
forward. It addresses your concern, which is
Yes.
valid. But outside of that, so that whole piece there is looking at being rezoned from R16 to R6, CZ conditional zoning. The next one is a special use permit from Mr. William Wooten for 514 North George Street. This property is being looked at as a tow and recovery type storage yard. It does require a special use permit for this operation. At this time, there's no principal structure, but he still would like to be able to utilize the property so that he could tow a vehicle to the lot and keep it there until it was recovered. It's not to be a salvage yard, a junkyard, or anything of that nature. Still has to comply with our development regulations. So we'll bring his site plan back before you.
Okay.
Gregory Sakas is the last one. The property address is 4265 Highway 70, Goldsboro. The reason he is taking a structure that is currently used for commercial business uses, but because it's located in Seymour Johnson's Air Force Base within their noise overlay contour, any use there has to come before the board for approval. He's just going to use it for retail sales, and that's just how the ball rolls with regards to that. Anything in the airport business zoning district or in the noise overlay contours, you have to get special approval for that. That's all we have for you, Chairman, Commission.
All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Yeah. What we have going on, we all get better at this.
Goldsboro's got more going on, that's, we need it, don't we?
All right. So, nothing further? Adjourn.
All right.